Good morning. Good morning. It's been a hot minute. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to my blank sheet of paper. Let's see what we can do about that. Right? Right. Put my head in the way at the top. Let's start with that. Just got a good little pose there. Good morning, good morning. It's been a minute. Hopefully get back into the swing of things. It's been a interesting couple of months, right? So hoping to start a little bit earlier, but in the week once I got back. But took me as usual. Anytime anything involves paperwork, it takes me a while to get started on it. So, but I thought I'd kind of just do one of these fill up doodle pages here. Start on one of those today. But I'm up for my it's the third year review. So I'm in the middle of my third year in university, and basically I have to assemble a whole bunch of documentation to show what I've been up to. It's an academic CV, very exciting stuff. Basically, I have to go through and show all of my academic activities in a few different categories and document them. And kind of the process of kind of looking into how those things are typically done, I recognized that actually I needed to include my entire academic experience, which goes back to 2004. And so not only do I have to say what it is, I got to show what I was doing, student work. I probably actually should collect all my student reviews from the past two that I have. Professional activities, work I was doing for them, people to contact to verify everything that was done. It's a whole thing. So I started that when I was at home in December, but I kind of recognized that I didn't have everything I would need for it. So but it's 23 pages long, and that's a lot of stuff. I think I did in '04 to the Red Sox World Series. I don't know, how did they do? I haven't paid attention to baseball since I was like I don't know, 13 or something. Um, oh, they won? How many times has that happened? I graduated. I don't know. Isn't World Series in the fall? That was the year I graduated. And also the same time I started teaching. Which I always like my little story about when I got started teaching because I guess I can zoom in over here. Huh? It's been a long time since I paid attention. Um, but scoot this over, I suppose, too, over here. But what was I saying? The yeah, but yeah, family events and everything kind of put all of my little projects on hold. But yeah, I was trying to get things done out there, but I recognized that like all of my student work and source files and everything were here at the home computer, and so I had to come back. Actually, I had to stay a little bit longer, but we need to get this done out of the way. So anyway, it should mean doing it in the future won't be as bad, but it's still just a real bear to go through all that paperwork. I had to recommend people to as external reviewers. Um, they were telling me in person that I was supposed to recommend internal ones, which I thought was weird. And I was looking at the paperwork, and I don't actually need to do any of that. Um, we'll see if I survive. One of the things I've been growing more. I didn't think I could be more so, but I've been growing more vocal about my concerns about courses in the department, professors wanting to adopt uh, generative AI as part of the program. And it's a real sticking point with me. So we'll see if I even have a job by the end of the year or next year or whatever. Good morning. What do we got there? So it was funny when I was back out west. I saw hung out with some of my people I used to know or teach with. One was that kind of used to be teacher. He used to be my teacher for a while. Figure drawing class. He's head of a program where they take turns, so he might not be head of the program right now. But and then another guy who's head of the illustration program where I also taught at for a while. And I was telling him what some of the professors are doing, and they were just completely shocked by it. Like they couldn't believe that they would behave that way. This one, it's a Unifield 2.0, so it holds 2 millimeter lead. And this is just a red lead from I think it's Stadler, might be Uni, but I just sharpen it one of these. Um, that's what I got here. Typically you'll use them with. There's different ones you can get. Like I have this one here. This one actually has a label on it for F, so I can that way I only put F lead into it. F is a drafting grade for graphite. And so I like using it. But the most popular one you probably see usually has a silver tip, but is the Stadler one. This is an old one I have. I put blue lead in just because this is blue. Um, just to kind of keep me from having to check what's in where and how everything's put together. Get her lankiness and the twist in the hips at the same time. Yeah, so working on getting that going, and then working. Had some family things come up during the break, which is why I was there so long, so much since mid late November. So I think I'm mostly caught up. I gotta come up with some assignments for this semester for the new class I'm teaching. But other than that, ready to roll. So yeah. So I had to get back to everything. I've got kind of what I want to do this next year locked in, and kind of super focused on that. Fully get all that rolling out. Anybody else got any? My big two focus is is getting that comic pitch done and distributed, and start work on a first issue, and then also my promoting my teaching site. Um, while things, I was working with a company last fall, summer and fall. And it didn't really work out very well. We canceled our deal in November, which I kind of anticipated just because this wasn't doing what they were looking for and what I was looking for. So reopened stuff up on my own site, and I did a little promotional thing during Black Friday as a little test run, and to kind of cycle out a lot of people out of my really old email list for the site. Hopefully nobody was in here was too aggrieved by it, but I wanted to try some things out, see how it would go. And I hadn't used that email information in a long time. So it was funny, I got a few people saying, hey, I never signed up for this. I'm like, well, you did, but it was like 6, 7 years ago. Which is, I think, a long time, right? So I've got a whole bunch of things to do with that, including finally finishing some things with it. But once I get my new course going for this semester, devote some time to finishing that up, and then look at what's next. You can either figure drawing or adapting the concept course that I teach at the university here into something on there, the concept drawing course. Which I think would be good. So I found interesting that I saw kind of news-wise, there's like a lot of, the usual AI nonsense going on out there where um, some chip manufacturers and tech manufacturers, they're going to stop making consumer products and only make stuff for the chatbots, which is a big problem. It's going to make computer parts really expensive. It's already started. I know the NVIDIA's announced, or there's rumor that NVIDIA's going to announce soon that basically they're going to be increasing the prices of the 5090 GeForce video card to $5,000 from $2,000. So that's a 250% increase in price. They said to compensate for the lack of availability, they're going to start manufacturing the 3060 again, which is funny just because that's the video card I have in my computer that I built 4 years ago. But yeah, RAM prices I think have already doubled over the last few weeks. So we get memes of Marco Rubio wearing different uniforms. Isn't that great? It's a good exchange, I think, right? Who likes that? I should double check something real quick. I think I forgot to turn the chat on for YouTube, etc. Where are you at? Where's that app? God, it's been a while since I've been at this, so I forgot to turn on. Later. One thing. Let's see, where's that at? Should be right there. So sorry if you've been over on the YouTube side. I haven't. Pull up here in case I missed anything. There's one person watching. But, let's see. Chat. Let's see. We do need to grab that. YouTube's act. That's right. I just got to turn the viewer thing on there. There we go. So Kick I have to sign into. I'll do that later. All right. Yeah, I was thinking about that. Hey, I forgot to do something. So, but one thing I saw was interesting. I think more so than a lot of things is there was two stories. One was about the negative impact bringing computers and tablets into students' classrooms, especially elementary through middle school, high school. That classes like history or literature or art or whatever, bringing computers into the classroom has been a net negative, like objectively. Like students can't focus, they're trying to do 10 things at the same time on the computer, and obviously they're finding hacks with them and just watching streamers or whatever entertainment they want. But learning outcomes have been like significantly degraded by bringing computers into those classrooms. And the reason why people said they wanted them was for efficiency reasons, right? So you could, have them do training exercises or, certain kinds of testing or other things in there. But they're finding that has not been very helpful, which to me, I would have said was obvious, but, they never ask me these questions. So that was an interesting thing. So that this notion that implementing technology is always by default a universal benefit. It's just wrong. And I would think that would be obvious. There's a lot of obvious distractions or technologies that have been net negatives in the past. So why this was anticipated, I imagine for a number of companies like Apple or people making Android tablets like Samsung or whatever, they would have looked at it and said, "Oh, this is a great sales thing," and so they pitch it as being biased for what they want. as an outcome. But but yeah, it's a problem. Other thing, there was a video going around, and I think I posted a study that's related to it, but I haven't been able to find it. Um, I think it's the Like Stories of Old YouTube channel, where basically the audio is off. Hello, Damon. I've been out for a bit. Been had a bunch of family stuff happen, and then I've been having to do a lot of university paperwork. I was commenting over on the YouTube side. Um, but yeah, the computer stuff has just been a problem because it's distracting, which should be obvious, I would think, but or tablets especially, that'd be really distracting. Like I know how I watch my nieces and nephews when I was when I visit them, or especially when I saw different ones over the break. But when they pick up a tablet, they just kind of lock in, like their mind is just gone. Like they're just there's nobody home. Like they're inhabiting that virtual space 100%. So I can imagine, it's really hard for a teacher in a classroom, with 20, 30 kids or whatever they're dealing with now in these public school disaster zones. Trying to get kids to pay attention to what they're trying to show them. And then they're, locked in on these tablets. I just can't imagine. But yeah, so that was one study that came out just showing that it's been a net negative, like a clear net negative to have tablets that, by removing phones and tablets and screens from most classrooms, students pay attention better, they remember more, they engage better. It's it's like it's not. I don't think it should be that hard to figure out that's what would happen, but should be, so like I say, axiomatic. But the other thing was this video. This guy did Like Stories of Old, talking about optical and haptical or haptic movies. And basically, he says it's a thesis dealing with how movies, by and large, it's not universal for all of them, but how there's kind of a cheapening effect, a shallowness to contemporary cinema, and he kind of relates it to what he calls haptic versus optical. And so what haptic is basically like in your phone, when you press a button, you can feel it, like a little vibration, or using a game controller, you feel like a sensation. So you have like this sense of the texture or the experience that you're having. It's like you touch a button, it feels like there's a real button, even though you're just touching a screen. Or it feels like your controller is shaking because you're being shot at, or you're shooting some kind of laser cannon or whatever. And an optical is just kind of seeing those things happen without any physical connection. And basically, he goes through and he shows a bunch of films from different time periods, using different kinds of technology. So film and digital, 3D and non. Like he comes back to Avatar a number of times as an example of haptic experience. And it is, when you look at a film, you get a strong sense for the atmosphere, the experience people are having in it. uh, that the atmosphere around them is influencing them, or the just the things going on around, make a difference for that um, overall experience. Like you can see everything happening in the background really clearly. Uh, there's a lot of clarity to the scene, and especially in older films. Like one he compares a lot is comes back to the recent Jurassic World movie, and he's pointing out that these people are in a tropical environment where it's humid and people should be sweating and uncomfortable, and they should definitely feel the heat. But they're all like nice and powdered up, and they look like they're barely even there. You see a difference too, like if you compare the newer Spider-Man movies with the Tobey Maguire ones, where there is computer stuff in there, sure, but um, the you still like the real stuff is definitely real, and you can tell he's been in a battle and that things are grimy and dirty or lived in or experienced. Whereas the newer ones, like everything is like super sharp and clean. And then there's like a loss of visual information or detail in a lot of these movies too. So everything's kind of blurry in the background. You can't tell what's going on around them too clearly, and all you really see is the main characters. Whereas the other ones, you get a sense of really being there because you can see what's happening. So you look at a movie like Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark, Ark of the Covenant, and there's the scene where they're mining and digging, and you can really clearly see what everyone is doing and how it functions and how everybody relates to each other and different kinds of things that they're doing, and they're all real. Whereas you can see a similar scene in other movies, and they'll all have that blurred out in the background while the characters talk in the foreground, and you kind of lose that experience in the name of, I don't know, not planning ahead. Um, so, uh, so that video made the rounds quite a bit. People talking about that, where he's comparing, really these kinds of films where you get a really strong haptic sense. I call it tactility usually. Um, the idea that you almost feel like you could reach out and touch what's there. I saw see that in old kind of Dutch still life paintings where when they paint the orange or the lemon on the table or the bread or silver or whatever, when you look at it, the texture, the impasto on the surface has to some degree been sculpted to replicate the surface that they are painting, and it adds a whole other layer of interaction with the work. And it's one of the things I've been thinking about with art stuff is the impact that shifting to digital has. And I think there's an article I found that I haven't been able to locate, but it talks about input surfaces as a haptic experience. So basically, when you use digital media, like your iPad or your computer, um, or other things, um, when you've got a stylus on a glass surface like that, um, no matter what you're painting, no matter what brush you're using, no matter how big it is, no matter how much texture or not texture it has, the surface contact you're making is always the same. And you might not think about it directly, but it's there. You might not have noticed, but as they say, your brain did. And so by having a variety of surfaces that you're working with, like this brush on paper, or if I pull out a nib, um, I'm having to adapt to the variations that that tool provides. Um, and because of that, it increases my cognitive development. So, um, one of the concerns I've been talking to a number of people about, I think I brought it up here, is that by relying on digital as a primary form of activity. Oh, look, we got a Hong Konger, Joe-san. But yeah, by relying on digital so much, especially as for the students, I think it's universal, but especially for students, we're limiting their growth, and we're undermining, quite literally, their cognitive development. That by because they're just having that one experience, and then I think one of the arguments I've been having, well, not arguments, but discussions I've been having with some people, and seen a lot of agreement with it, and wide eyes from other people who don't agree with it. But I think one of the problems we see in a lot of media these days is a result of that digital revolution, where it did at least two things, and there's probably a spectrum of these two things, but basically it allowed, on one side, people who are honestly, and this could include me, maybe, I don't know, it's hard to say, but it could include people who are less cognitively able, so let's say lesser minds, to get into fields where if they had to use media to become excellent, they would have failed miserably. They would never have been able to achieve uh, the surface level quality that we see them have as a result of things like Photoshop or Procreate or whatever app they want to use these days. And then on the other side of the question is those that would be great minds. And it's hard to say who is. I don't want to point out a particular group or person or whoever, because you just don't know who's going to achieve what. Like, it's impossible to say. But I think on the opposite end of that digital question is those who would have become truly great, did we shortchange their experience with digital? That we didn't allow or provide the opportunity for that level of cognitive development that can happen as a result. And so is that one of the reasons why, there's so much more media produced, so there's obviously a need for it these days, but maybe why so much of it, you're watching like, why is this written so poorly, or why does this look so off? Or why do people seem to be acting in ways that have nothing to do with what's going on around them, or an understanding of human psychology, etc. Or we've got all these games that are launching broken. People bragging about not having engaged with media that they're developing. I remember that was like a big thing with the Halo TV series, where the writers for it and the creators for it, they said they'd never played the game and they were told not to. when they signed up, which is just I don't understand that at all. I don't know that it's an absolute. I do see it maybe as being a pattern that's worth paying attention to. So a lot of times, the reasons I've heard for sticking with traditional media have never been based around that. It's always been like, well, you want to, learn to be efficient, or you know, um, you have to learn the rules before you break the rules, sort of thing. Which I've never liked that expression, but since I don't think there are really any rules per se, but um, that's kind of something I've been considering in my brain hole is maybe advise, recommend that we shift things back into more what I would call real media. It's like I've never liked the word traditional media because it just implies that well, this is an old thing that people used to do, rather than something that's a bit more accurate, like analog. And I've been hearing people say analog more often lately, which is good. Because again, one of the things that kind of goes back to here is the fact that, well, you've got to get things done eventually, at a good cadence, at a due date. Sometimes it's a fast one, sometimes it's not as fast. But I think the idea that you can kind of optimize efficient output of excellent art is kind of a very, very dangerous road to take. It's one of the arguments you hear with those who are supportive of generative AI is that, oh, well, efficiency, that's what we're all about when we're designing characters or environments or pre-production art. Efficiency is what we really, really want. And it's like, to me, it's like saying, well, if you want optimal maximum intake of hamburgers, you can go to McDonald's. Doesn't mean you're going to like what you eat, and might even make a profit. But I don't feel like that's the outcome that you desire. And one of the things I remember reading about the studies about this a long time ago, but there's an important phase of creative development. Actually, there's several, but I think it's like there's an initial concept, a thought that you have, an idea that's sitting in your brain. And that's kind of the first phase of creative development. Like, oh, it's this thing I'm inspired by, something you've seen or read or considered or experienced, and you want to put that down. Well, as part of that, there's what they call a saturation phase. And so that's where you kind of take in all of the things that you feel like might be necessary for that. So the research, the sketching, the ideation, the reading, the media, related media, or places you need to visit or whatever. All that research and kind of the things that you need in order to really kind of sink your teeth into a subject and really understand it is that saturation phase. And then what follows from that is, I think, a really, really important phase that gets lost when you deal with things as being efficient, as being the primary outcome or goal. And that is a phase called incubation. And the concept there is effectively you should have time to let that idea, that saturation, that initial inception that you have, kind of sit in your brain. And because your brain's doing a lot of stuff in your subconscious in the background, and once it sits long enough, and the length of that, whatever that is, can take a long time or no time at all, it just depends. But it definitely takes some time. And if you don't allow for that incubation, all you're doing is you're just reprocessing out automatically your saturation. Um, and the you really got to have that period of thought kind of there, that incubation. And without it, you're just going to regurgitate things. So that the idea of constantly producing fast work at an insane clip is just not going to be ultimately that beneficial in terms of coming up with something really, really insightful. And so, and the final one, of course, is whatever the output that you're going to do is, whether that's painting or a book or a sculpture or engineering project or whatever. Um, um, I did a painting series, not a very good one actually, when I was in grad school. Had a great model for it, but I was kind of distracted by all the things I was learning. I was having a phase of saturation when I was in grad school. Which was distracting, but necessary, I think, because I definitely did learn a lot. And sometimes we complain when we're done, especially right out of grad school, because maybe not satisfied entirely with our performance, but at least if you have some self-awareness, you're not entirely satisfied with your performance. But let's see, where did that pen go? There you are. So that's one of the, I think, the fatal conceits of no, there's a doggy under my feet. How you doing, Bosch? So, but anyway, that again goes back to losing that phase of incubation, use Gen AI stuff, is you get this kind of instant output that you feel is acceptable. Oh, got to pause due to poor connection. What's up with that? I don't know if anyone else who's still here has thoughts on that, but that's something that's I've been thinking about. That you really, really need that kind of phase. So I've been definitely been going through that in my own little projects here, and I think sometimes I delay a little bit too long on things just because I tend to favor that saturation phase more maybe than I should. Let's see, where is the palette so I can get this at an angle on here. What I should do is put more ink in the bottle. Right? It's one of the problems I have with the university system is it doesn't allow for in-depth incubation in a semester, when you're dealing with a class. So everything has to move at a pretty quick clip. Just because time runs out, and you kind of have a choice between students doing some work, maybe trying to focus on quality over quantity, but it's also kind of really helpful to have quantity, to practice and practice drills over and over again. So it becomes kind of a catch-22. I know at one teacher, especially in my undergrad, he was really big on quantity over quality. I definitely learned a lot. We had a later class where there was definitely more emphasis on taking our time, but I also wonder if it should be balanced within any given semester to make it more more good for everybody. That's what I think. So. So, yeah, that's what has been on my mind. I wanted to get back to this. It's funny. I was working with that teaching company last fall, and I bought the new lens that I have, up above me here, and something I've wanted to do for a while. And I was like, well, now's a good opportunity to kind of invest in that. Basically, it's a lens that lets me do. If you're on the YouTube or whatever, I can really zoom in or zoom out pretty far. So, though we did the webinar, it was actually kind of funny because I had kind of a light shield on it, and one of the things that it kind of did was, I like this outfit here. Looks like it's a fashion student's thing. There's no person in it, but I think we found a little doodle this thing out. But But if I wanted to like do a super zoom like that, I had to get my zoom lens out and put it on there. Or if I wanted to have like a different kind of view, I had to swap lenses. I didn't like doing that, so I found a used lens of this type, and that lets me do both. So I think it goes down to like 15 millimeters and up to I think it's 200 something. Maybe just 200. I think it's I don't know the exact number, but it zooms in pretty far, so I'm able to keep it pretty high up out of the way. But yeah, so I'm excited about that. So, yeah, so if you're on the kind of the YouTube or Twitch side of things, you can kind of see the effect that having this lens has. One of the things nice too, though I'm a little worried about it, is a couple months ago, I think it's been now, or a month ago, they put a policy in on Pinterest where you could basically remove Gen AI stuff from the feed. Probably just some kind of AI system to track what's what. But it removes all the generative images from your feed. And at first there was a few, but ever since then, really, I haven't really seen much, which is good. I like that. That's a good change. But then I also saw a news report recently that I guess OpenAI is looking at purchasing Pinterest, which is no good. But we'll see. Cross that bridge when it happens. But for now, I've got my feeds, my collections that I'm pretty happy with. Maybe I should find some more things to do, so in case that happens, I'll at least still always have those. But I did get rid of pretty much all of it. So if you haven't been over there in a while, it's worth checking out. But I hope I'll be back on quite a bit more. I'll probably ink this up and then leave that over there. Ink this up and then get on with the day. Get the course more set up. Spend a little more time thinking about it. That way. But I'm excited about the year. There's all the kind of weird things that are going on that I don't like. The things that I have no say or control over. But the things that I do have a say in, the things that I can do and try, I'm aware of, I'm actually excited about them. Looking forward to 2026. Hopefully, we can avoid big universal problems, and hopefully some of these things will fade away. But there's always something else, so there's always that. But there's always the things that I can do. And what I want to do, those things that I can do, I'm actually pretty excited about. So hopefully you have a pile of those too to be interested in. Good morning. Hey, you saw me last year? What do we got over there? Yeah, I haven't been on in a long time. I've got had a bunch of family things happen. Um, my father passed away at the beginning of December, and then I've been busy with that initially, and then I've also had a bunch of school things I had to do recently. Um, so I kind of had to reduce the number of things I had going on in order to kind of make sure I was taking care of my responsibilities. But I think mostly at a place where I can get back to regular stuff like this. And I was just talking about the excitement over the new year and things that I want to do, things I'm looking forward to. But things that I think we're all kind of concerned about. But I think there's a lot of opportunity out there. All right, it says it's going to be shutting me off in 2 minutes on the Instagram side. So if I don't finish this in time, I'll turn it back on over there to finish it up a little bit. I just doodling some reference this morning from Pinterest, and it's been nice ever since Pinterest put their kind of you can remove AI button in there. It's been really a lot nicer. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and restart the Instagram stream since it's shutting off in 1 minute for some reason. So I'm going to restart that and be right back over there. And let's restart it. But all right, restarted. So yeah, it's been all right, zoom back in. Been a busy couple of months, and it kind of derailed a few of the things I was working on, but I'm excited to kind of get back to them. And there's a lot to do. So hopefully everybody else has some big plans for the new year. Definitely never want to kind of wait to start your plans for an arbitrary holiday, but it is also a good opportunity to think about those things while a lot of other people are, and kind of get things rolling. Yeah, one of my goals is to be more regular about this live streaming thing again now that kind of back here and things are more or less settled. Yeah, well, it was a long for in the case of my dad, it was a long road. Um, a little over 2 years ago, he collapsed in a parking lot into a seizure, which he's never had before, and they found brain cancer. And the kind he had, either there's two different types, and one will get you very, very quickly. Like once you find out, you might have you know a month or two to live. And his was the kind that was treatable. So, and even with the treatable one, like you're lucky if you make it a year. Like very few people do. And he made it 2 years, and a little over 2 years actually. So, we were glad to have that extra time. And I got to go see him just before he passed away, and then I was coming back. So I was there for Thanksgiving break while he was recovering from a fall. He was doing much better when I left, and then I came back to teach my final class of the semester, and basically by the time I was able to get that done and then start heading back, because they live on the other side of the country from me, I was going to drive out this next time just because made sense, because I was there just before. Things are better, but I was going to spend the winter break there, and so it seemed like driving out would be the smarter thing to do. But as I was driving back, he passed away. He was put into a medical coma basically the day I left. Um, but so uh, yeah, so I got back and helped put the funeral stuff together and making sure my mom had everything she needs taken care of and all that kind of important stuff. So it's definitely something everybody experiences at some point, and everybody wants more time, and sadly we only get the amount that we get, and anything we see as extra is we're lucky to have. He turned 72 last May, so just a little over 72. So not that old, not young. Um, And he was excited because he had was in his third year of political office that he won. He was a county commissioner, and he finally won it on his second try, and was having a good time with that. And he was getting ready to start running for a second term, which he initially wasn't going to do, and then he was convinced to kind of maybe do that. So he was getting ready for that during that phase, and then came down with this cancer. And so it was funny. I got there like right after he got the diagnosis, so I took off from school and went up there right away. Um, and I got there after the surgery, initial surgery, to have the mass removed. And he was doing much better because it relieved all this pressure on his brain. And he told me as I was leaving at that winter break, going to go back to teaching, that he was planning on running again. But that didn't end up happening. He had to go, chemotherapy, and I'm the oldest of the children. There's six of us, and I am the eldest child. Um, so, yeah, but once he got into the chemotherapy, they just really took a lot out of him. He was able to kind of keep his position for a while, up until the last few months, which he was actually kind of upset about because when he finally got off chemo and radiation, he was actually feeling much better, like cognitively and energy wise. He's still in rough condition, but doing much better. And but he kind of resigned just before that point. I think he wished he could have finished out his term. Um, he had a lot of things he was working on and doing, and he'd, one of the things he did accomplish was he got a larger space for the veterans of foreign wars people, and there was usually there's like three people that will show up for a three-gun salute or a three-shot salute at a burial for veterans. But for his, there was like 30 guys, the older guys, um, and he was a retired Marine Corps too. So, um, so there was people there holding the flag and doing the salute for him. This is my dad. Sorry, yeah, this is my dad who passed away. So but yeah, so yeah, there's been been away as a result of that. among other things, I came back early. I was going to stay a little bit longer, but I had some bunch of school things I needed to really do, and including I teach at a university, and I'm up for my first tenure track review, and mostly it's just to kind of assess where I'm at, what they think I should be maybe focusing more on, and all those kinds of things. Yeah, it's definitely difficult, losing a member of your family. But yeah, but I had to come back. So I teach at university. I have a tenure uh, position where once I don't have it yet, but once I do get it, something I'm eligible for. Not all faculty uh, get that eligibility. So, but I had to fill out a academic CV, which just was a nightmare. Mine's 23 pages long, and I have to list out basically. Well, you think that they regularly just kind of think of it as being what's going on at their university, but most people, once you're at a university full time, you don't leave. It's like a lot of the faculty here, they might have taught at one or two other universities. For me, this is number seven. Um, and so I actually have a very long academic career, going back 20 years, or 20 plus years. And it's kind of looking at what other people say about what an academic CV should be, and how it should be formatted and what to include. And I was kind of like, well, I kind of probably should include the full length. So it took a long time to kind of go through and find everything. They're mostly going to be focused on the recent stuff, but I just felt like if I'm going to do this, I might as well do the whole thing, and not skimp on any of the information. Rather than deciding kind of what I think should be important, I'll let the assembled committee decide what's valuable. And let them deal with that. It seems like most people get these positions when they're a bit younger, and that I am, and so they're kind of more starting out on doing things, whereas I've got a lot more kind of in my background, as it were. So so yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I've had a busy end of the last year, last 6 months or so, 4 or 5 months, working with a course company. I was kind of very dissatisfied with what they were doing and the results they were getting, and so they had a kill clause that I took advantage of, and I'm gonna go back to marketing my own site. That's what I was going to do before they contacted me. I was like, oh, we're going to jump back into this myself. I've got all these plans to do X, Y, or Z. with it, and I put those on hold because I was like, oh, well, these people they'll handle it. They know what they're doing, and then basically have no sales on it. So and I kind of took a closer look at what they were doing, and they were doing things that what I would say at minimum are off-brand for me. So for one, when they would put out ads, they would have images that were mine, which was fine, but they weren't dealing with the subject of the course, which was perspective. But they put out like my weird monsters, which I think are great. I like my monsters and my weird environments and all that fun stuff. But it's nothing to do with the subject. But that was like what they were shoving into the advertising. I kind of called them out on it. They were really hesitant to remove it, which didn't make any sense to me. You know. And then I had a friend who was pointing out that the stuff they were writing in the ads was a little weird too. I hadn't really looked that closely because I'll just trust these people to do their thing. And when I read it, I realized right away that everything that they were writing was written in ChatGPT, and just I don't like generative AI. I don't use it. I speak out against it. So it's like that's really off-brand for me, obviously, at minimum. And then as I'm reading what's in there, like it's about the subject, but it's not about the course. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? So I pointed that out, and started bringing up all these concerns, and they were just really slow to fix or deal with it at all. And I don't like any of that kind of inauthentic content being associated with me. So we did have a kill clause where if we didn't make a certain amount by a certain date, um, we would part ways. So we did that in November. But that was occupying a lot of my time in the fall, kind of dealing with that. So I was having making short videos and putting together packages. I even provided them with images, but packages of images and things. And yeah, they. That's why I started making more demand, which obviously made it more difficult to work with me. So I was like, this isn't going to work for us for doing things this way. But I did buy this new lens that you're looking at above me. It's a crazy, crazy zoom lens. I really like it a lot. Will actually make some of the lessons and things I want to do a lot easier to make. But I got it for like webinars and things that we were doing occasionally. So, yeah, but I was was getting really annoyed with them, and I was planning on calling off. I was like, are we getting close to like the 3-month cutoff date? I'm sitting in my head and I was going to ask them about it, and then they're like, hey, we meet right away. I'm like, sure, and it turned out that's what they wanted to meet about was canceling it, so I was relieved that it was over. So, yeah, got a whole bunch of things I've got on my list, but I had to take care of my university paperwork before I could do that. And today, hopefully, get the first few weeks to month of the class kind of laid out, and that way we can I can get to focusing on those things. get back to work on my little comic book project, which I'm also very excited about, and get that pitch book put together, and then jump into the first issue, regardless of what happens. I'm going to submit it to some publishers first, and then if that doesn't pan out the way I'd like it to, I might do a Kickstarter or something with it. Well, so anyway, I think I'm going to call it there for this morning. I'll be back later today. We'll see how things go. I've got, again, the paperwork things to do. And, get that school set up stuff, and then that should have me pretty much well set for the semester. And get that all going. But yeah, thanks everybody that came in. I appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time.